If we lived forever, maybe we'd have time to understand things. But as it is, I think the best we can do is try to open our eyes and see how strange and brief all of this is. You're listening to Raw Dogs.
Should program them so like once you push it, then if you push another thing, it doesn't change over to that.
Yeah.
Because you can easily just put the nozzle back in. You cancel your transaction or whatever.
What remains of Dom's gas money after a scenario like that? Am I right?
Hey, that $10 is going to put you right over the edge.
I know.
You can buy some really great indie games for $10.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you can.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Indie Games Month here on Raw Dogs. We're on episode 3. Yes, I am one of your hosts. This is Brad, Loaf of White Brad, your third favorite person on the show today.
Third favorite, probably your second favorite. That's me, Dylan.
Does that mean I'm number one?
You're definitely number one.
Dommy's number one.
For fucking sure, dude. It's definitely not fucking me.
I am extremely excited to talk about our video games today.
This episode in particular, I am so ready. I've been waiting forever for you to play these two games in particular, and I'm glad we finally got around to it.
Today we're talking about Barbie's Dream Horse 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you found Jesse's pony out in the field, did you like the color of their mane?
Well, the whole side quest to find the main color, because she had the unfortunate haircut by the evil Lord Scissorfist.
Wow.
Did you?
That's cool.
Scissorfist sounds like some crazy thing you'd look online for.
Yeah, that you have to drive that pink Corvette all the way in there.
That's a Prince song if I ever heard one. Raw Dogs is brought to you by Patreon executive producers Ants in the Pants, King Kippo, Rai Whiskey, and Tikachu. Thank you so much for your continued support. And for everyone else on Patreon, we're part of the Greenlit Podcast Network. Check out the other shows there as well. Today, we are talking about what remains of Edith Finch, Kentucky Route Zero, and then at the very end, we're going to do a quick top 10 indie games as voted by the Raw Dogs, the Dogcast, and our listeners.
So cool.
Yes, and no, I'm the only one who knows that list, but
great.
Yeah.
We're going to start first, though, with Dom. Dom, what was your pick for Indie Games Month?
So my pick for Indie Games Month was What Remains of Edith Finch, and it took me... There's a lot of good games out there. Mm-hmm. It took me a while. Like, I think when you texted me, like, hey, man, I need your top 5 in order, I was like, shit.
Son of a bitch. Yeah.
Everyone said that like, you asshole.
You're probably the only person in the Raw Dogs community that I think has played as many indie games as I have.
Well, and the funny thing was when you guys asked me I think we were filming or recording Mega Man, and it was around New Year's, and you asked me what my New Year's was, and I was like, I want to play more indie games. I played tons.
Yeah,
dude. Like, what the hell? I guess I just thought I wasn't playing enough, because I know this is coming out in like
late July,
fairly later on after E3 has already happened.
Sure.
In my opinion, indie games, for obvious reasons with COVID and shit, they don't have to like separate or whatever because there's only like 3 people working on a game.
Bob and Ted don't have to just separate when they live together to be making a game.
But indie games clearly won E3 this year.
I didn't even watch the presentation.
Well, even in Xbox, our favorite games was 12 Minutes and Somerville.
Ayuden Chronicle.
Yeah, and like that Atomic Heart, that weird...
That one looks strange.
Yeah, like they all look great. And There was tons of them announced. I think like 250 indie games got announced.
You were saying you didn't feel like you had played enough indie games back in Mega Manuary, and at some point you did pick up What Remains of Edith Finch since then.
I had already played it.
You've already played that one.
But the reason I picked that one was because of the lasting effect that it left on me, even though it's only like a 2-hour game.
What Remains of Edith Finch released for the PlayStation 4 and Windows April 25th, 2017. Came to the Xbox One in 2017, and the Switch finally in 2019. Developed by Giant Sparrow, published by Annapurna Interactive. Just a quick overview. Edith returns to her family's home off the coast of the state of Washington and learns about her relatives and their deaths by visiting their bedrooms, sealed off and treated as shrines to their memory, with each death played out in a short gameplay sequence to the player. The game is presented as an anthology of these mini experiences, wrapped in the dramatic setting of the family's history and fate through Edith's narration. Dylan, so you were anticipating this game before it came out?
Yes, I was. I am the type of person who will see pretty visuals and kind of just nod my head and say, well, I'm going to have to play that. I'd seen a trailer for this, and immediately it struck me pretty hard. I was already looking for stuff on the PlayStation 4 anyway. A lot of the stuff I had played just kind of felt samey. I'm always looking for new experiences, and this is definitely one of those. Edith Finch is, first of all, I don't mean to like spoil it, fantastic.
Let's get that
thoughts.
Let's get that out of the way. There will be spoilers for this and Kentucky Route Zero, and both games. It is highly advised that you play them first and don't look anything up, because the discovery and the narration and the story are integral to the experience.
Spoiler number 1, it's in the title.
Yes.
So if you go in not knowing how it ends, it's not
It still got me a
it's not
little.
because you didn't figure it out,
It's not
but
about-
it is in the title.
It's not about there's 2 Edith Finches in the game, and it could mean either Edie or Edie Jr. That there is an ambiguity there, because those are, I think, the 2 primary forces acting in the game. This, I will say, is kind of like my first walking simulator experience.
Really? You haven't even played like Dear Esther?
Nope.
Everyone's Gone to the Rapture.
Yeah.
That one's weird.
There was
but good.
I think I maybe tried Everyone's Gone to the Rapture because it was a free game, but
It's not that good.
Firewatch is also pretty good.
Firewatch is good, and that's also very narration and story heavy. It's a little more interactive than most walking simulators. I've played more than a few in my time, and I think the one thing that separates this one from the other ones almost immediately are these vignettes. Are these like you get thrown into the actual story? It's usually first person from another person's perspective, and it gives you something new to do. There might be a new mechanic or a couple things you have to juggle at the same time. I think it really works for the game. I think that just the fact of it's level design and then mini games. And that's how the structure breaks down.
mini games it seems like you're giving it too much gameplay. I'm not saying that as a negative thing. There's mini stories, there are vignettes. What I didn't know what this game was about going in, and you're Edith and you're approaching a house, and then you learn through narration, which it's wonderful how they tell it with her words guiding you where to look and where to walk. And so you wind up crawling through the doggy door and going into the house. You discover this house has got a lot of weirdness to it. And I think they even described in the game, they said nothing seemed like it didn't belong, but there was just too much of things. Like there was too many books. Everything seemed a little off, but right at the same time.
It reminds me, immediately it reminded me of Gone Home. That's another one of those walking simulators that I had played before this. I don't really like Gone Home, but I thought this actually resonated with it, and I thought it was just an overall better execution of the entire idea.
I have a problem with the term walking simulator. It seems that's what a lot of people like to call these, but it seems like it's not doing justice to the experience. It is
It's a bit insulting.
It's a narrative based cinematic game experience. I don't know. There's got to be a better term than a walking
It's a
simulator.
first person narrative.
If Death Stranding is more of a walking simulator to me, because that is about walking, that is about carrying and the physical act of it more. But all the bedrooms, man, there was always this feeling when I was playing the game. Is this kind of a horror thing? What is going to be happening? Because all the bedrooms are sealed off, and it's Discovery. You don't know what's going on other than something bad has happened. There's missing children posters out front. And then you get your first vignette. And this is when I immediately texted you guys. I was like, all right, no one can talk about this game story in the Discord. Just everyone please be radio silent, because you play as this child who is locked in her bedroom and starving. And she winds up eating an old carrot, toothpaste, and mistletoe, enough that. And that's what's really great about this too. A lot of there's the family curse. Okay, the Finches are cursed for 500 years, according to the little storytelling device that describes Odin.
Yeah, the Odin section.
It's apparently their family's been haunted forever. And
What did they do in the old country? That's my only question.
they all died.
How did they fuck it up that bad though? And also, like, it seems to me like the curse was really ramping up towards the end.
Well, this is a self-fulfilling prophecy, in my opinion.
It's got to be. Yeah.
Edie, the grandma, she loved this shit. She perpetuated it, and I've seen some good arguments about. I mean, she's the one who locked her daughter in there. I don't know if she intended to have something happen to Molly, but I think when somebody,
I think she was delusional, and I think she had other kids to take care of. Like, obviously, so the impetus for Molly's death is that she has like a fever or something, right? Isn't that the idea?
She becomes sick from what she was eating, like old food, toothpaste, and then a poisonous berry. She was eating things she shouldn't have,
but she had some sort of illness because she was seeking out food from the hamster cage.
Well, she was sent to bed without dinner, and she was so hungry, and she begged her mom, Edie, like, please let me out. She's like, just go to bed. And then all of a sudden, you think she's going to fall out the window, is what I was thinking was going to happen. But she's like, and then I was a cat. And then I was an owl. And I was like, okay, I'm following. And then I was a shark. And I said, wait, what?
Yeah.
And then
you're a sea monster.
Well, the sea monster was when I was most excited.
Yeah.
I thought that was the ship that was going to be pulling over the family houseboat. I thought they were getting weird and going more into explanations, but you discover the history of Edith's family and all of their strange deaths. I was very charmed by this game. The way the bedrooms are perfect encapsulations of a time period, because when a child dies or someone dies, lock it up, preserve it. So
no dust.
Yeah.
Something I'll say.
Edie was crawling through those little like back things and dusting. She was probably even organizing stuff in there.
Oh, I would imagine it. I mean, these are literal memorials to her children. I mean, what else are you gonna? I don't know. I know, like, my grandmother, like, when her husband died, my step grandfather, like, it was just like, well, we got to keep everything pretty much exactly the same, and like, you dust it off, you keep his chair, you keep everything.
I think the curse of the Finch family, though, is something that Edith loves too much. And there are some deaths that, okay, accidents happen. Molly, she should have maybe been given food or listened to, but that could have been an accident.
Well, it's implied she also has some hidden knowledge. Like, but it doesn't actually technically reveal that to you, and it kind of cock blocks you. We were literally just playing that part before we started, where she's wandering onto the low tide beach and she's walking towards the house. And
the very end of the game.
Yes. And Edith is reading the journal because obviously Edie wanted to finish that before they left the next morning, but they get a heated argument. Edith and her mom have to leave right away, and it's just like, well, we're never going to know what the curse actually is because it's something in that house.
No. To me, this is the end of Inception, where
I think it's more of a big fish thing.
Well, with the end of Inception, is the totem spinning or not anymore? And you're like, I needed it. Well, you're saying you needed to see if the totem fell over, but the point is, it's important that we don't know what's in the house because Edie was crazy. Edie was obsessed with the story. She was obsessed with leaving a legacy of pushing the Finch family curse. They built a cemetery before they finished the house. That was more important to her. And she was trying to push that legacy.
Well, because I think workers died trying to get the house over.
Well, I mean, that's because they were sailing a house over the water.
Yeah, it's a little weird.
What do you think was going to happen?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think it's important that they don't chase the family curse. And so what does Edith do? She fucking chases the family curse up to her old bedroom and writes a journal and leaves it to her son. But
yeah.
And then so the next death you learn about is Calvin, the kid whose swing is overlooking a cliff next to a fence where he could fall and impale himself.
Right.
Curse, you say?
Yeah.
This is the point of the game where I had to take off my VR headset.
Oh, you were playing in VR. This is not a VR game, though.
No, it is not. But when you are swinging in an RV headset and your body's not moving, your stomach sure is.
Well, I can't believe you were driving while you were playing it, too.
Right.
Let's see how this works.
Yeah, I can imagine that swing set would be pretty disorienting.
Yeah, it was. So I had to then take that off. It was just fun to be in the woods and walking around a house and have nothing else around me.
Yeah. Good sound and everything.
Yeah.
So you're swinging, and you know that whole myth with kids of trying to loop around? This kid wanted to do it, and he does it, and and then a sharp wind blows, and he flies off. Like he jumps. Like it's one of the, I'm not sure why he jumped.
Well,
did it launch him?
We don't know if he did. He fell. And he might have jumped, he might not have. But that's
he clearly got launched.
That's something about
the curse, man.
These are stories that are told through framing devices.
Right.
And his brother wrote inside the letter, and then he flew. And that's what happens when you read it. And also, it's like you're reading the pulp comic book, and it's all told through a narrative framing device. So you're not getting what actually happened. You're getting what's being immortalized mostly by Edie, who's trying to make things look great, or also characters who you're learning the story through, but you're never seeing exactly what happened.
No, there's obviously a wandering through the house, no matter how whimsical the house is, you get the feeling that these stories are kind of tall tales and that they are just family folklore, and that maybe the fact that Edith is still kind of a kid, maybe she built up these stories in her mind, and that's actually she's having this empathetic kind of understanding within the moment, and that's how she wants it to be.
Yeah.
This is actually what happened, because you never see anything that gruesome. It always cuts away. It doesn't actually show you the macabre aspects of these deaths. It cuts off right at the point of death.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that makes me believe that there's some psychological editing going on within the character of Edith.
And they described that just before this too, where her husband dies when a dragon slide that he was making falls on him, and she tells the papers, "Oh, a dragon killed him." And she tells tabloids, "Yeah, there's a mole man living under our house." She loves pushing the legacy out there. And there's even one point, this is one of my favorite pieces of trivia when I was looking into the making of. So there was a fire that was coming for the house, and she said she's refusing to leave, which is it seems like she was almost hoping she might die to further push the legacy. But the creators, Tom would have loved this, the creators were considering having Weird Al make a song about her and how she refused to leave when the fire came.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
They wanted to, but it just didn't happen. It didn't happen in the end.
I would have been great for us, but
for the tone of the game. I think it
would have taken you out of it. Yeah. Because you would have been like, is this Weird Al?
Well, it would have taken you out, but it would have also pushed that she wants to be immortalized and she wants the family to be known. Something from the next one with Barbara. So these are all the main characters like grandpa,
and uncles,
not even aunts and uncles yet. It's like grandpa and brothers and sisters of like the grandfather,
Okay.
Great aunts, great uncles.
or of the grandma, of Edie's, Edie's children. But Barbara, this pulp comic book, she even makes the Edith makes the comment when she picks up this comic book. She says, "Of all the versions and tales of this story, it's weird that Edie chose to put this one in like the memory spot."
Old Jack here with another ghastly tale inspired by America's most unfortunate family. I'm calling it The Surprise Ending of Barbara Finch.
Basically a Crypt Keeper facsimile. Yeah, that's
What's great about the novel is there are things in there that wouldn't be able to be there unless Edie was helping him.
Yes.
Edie helped, like, showed him the layout of the house because there are little details in there that wouldn't be there otherwise, which is...
You wander through the same hallways, but as in like a cell shaded kind of way. It looks really good.
Yeah, it's cool.
It meshes very well, especially as someone who's is still. I'm in love with that art from that era in comic books in general, especially American comic books.
Yeah.
It's really cool because those horror pulp anthologies, they've got some real good looking shit in there.
I remember thinking, wow, they have a really good ripoff of the Halloween song. And then I said, nope, that's just the Halloween theme from the movie. And yeah, she was a child star in a Bigfoot movie, and her boyfriend, like, it's still ambiguous kind of how the murder happened. I think the boyfriend is probably the murderer, but we don't know.
Someone actually did break into the household.
Yeah. But we don't know what happened. But this is where you learn, well, she was babysitting Walter while the family was in the hospital because Sven cut his hand because he's an idiot. Because he was down there making a totem pole out of his to memorialize his dead children out on the beach.
Yeah.
But Walter was hiding under the bed, sees a lot of what happened, and the mole man
is born.
Yeah, the mole man is born. Through the comic book, you learn about how to get into the basement with the music box. And yeah, you go down to the fridge, and I was like, oh man, this game is just going deeper. It's literally and metaphorically. What's in the basement, Dom?
If I'm not mistaken, is that where the pool table is?
Well, the pool table's there. And
is it a man cave with the?
It's a literal man cave.
Yeah. Isn't
with
this
supplies and reserves?
Yeah, isn't this like the weird bunker that the uncle's living in or something?
Yeah, it's so creepy that Walter was living there while Edith was a little girl.
Yeah, but I think.
Can you imagine if you found out your great uncle was living underneath the house for 30 years?
Yeah, isn't he just eating peaches? Like canned peaches?
Canned peaches, and I think it was just army rations too.
Gosh, there was cereal in there. There's a few things because she mentions, like, I saw Edie taking boxes to the basement. I thought it was just Christmas presents, but it was actually just supplies for Walter.
So one of my greatest nightmares, and I don't think it's possible in the house that I'm living in, but if I owned a house, one of my greatest nightmares would be, you hear those stories about homeless people that like find like the crawl space and just start living under there and getting food at night while you're asleep. That scares the living shit out of me.
Well, what was the story? Some guy living in Japan.
Yeah.
He just noticed his food was going missing, so he set up a camera. And then he watched it when he got home, and then he realized the lady was still up in his cupboard.
Have you seen the video of it?
God,
yeah.
That's some like fucking grunge.
There's one. There's
grudge.
The grunge. No, it's grunge. It was in the 90s.
There's a part of the video where she's opening the fridge very calmly, and then hears movement, closes it, and like fucking Spider-Man skitter scatters right up into that crawl space again. And I'm just like, no. If there's something scary about the hidden other, and I think this game actually does a really great job of approaching these kind of existential horror, because this is all horror. When you have to really break down what's happening to each of these, it's always a situation that is almost like with the kid, like Gregory. When Gregory dies in the bathtub,
oh my gosh!
Can you even imagine what that would be like? Because that scared the crap out of me.
That was, I think,
this is the baby that drowns.
Yes,
right?
yeah.
I think this one is one of the most emotionally affecting vignettes.
No one wants to see a baby die.
Well, it's not only that. This is something that anyone who in their real life has been involved in the death of an infant. Imagine your baby drowns in the bathtub. How can anyone move forward from that? How can anyone come to terms with what happens? But it's
And they do it so whimsically.
Well, all of these are.
I know,
right?
but
somebody dies and it's like I turned into an owl or I'm in a comic book.
Yeah.
But there, some of them have whimsy to them. But this one, you're in a bathtub. Tchaikovsky's Waltz of the Flowers is playing, and I think
It's a good choice.
it beautifully encapsulates, I think, how kind of being a kid would be and just like moving with toys in the bathtub, because it is just like this little joy and wonder. And good Lord, I mean, she left her baby in the bathtub alone.
the
And she
water kept rising.
Well, she turned the water off, but the baby's able to like turn it back on.
Yeah.
But I don't
He
know.
wanted to see his toys float.
Yeah.
We all float.
Yeah. That's the whimsical aspect
Yeah.
of it.
Well, this one's whimsical.
Oh, that's adorable.
And then the rubber ducky gets big and like
Yeah.
he's using his little imagination. Like there's like that part of it is always just like, you know what? Maybe it wasn't so bad while he was dying, which is obviously such a weird thing to actually think.
Well, I mean, they say
to
that
bring that
drowning
levity.
is one of the most
Yeah.
peaceful ways to die, which is total garbage.
No, it is
Don't-
because
com-
the
compared to-
first part sucks.
Compared to
Then-
death by getting your dick ripped off, sure, that sounds better, but
Well, depends on the situation, really.
yeah. And what's ripping the dick off?
Yeah, yeah.
But
Scissor fist.
back back to baby death.
Yeah.
Well, so then he turns into the frog, and all of the little figures are like doing a little circle around the drain. And the narration of Sam, who is Edith's grandpa, you're getting the narration of him writing on the divorce papers to his wife, trying to
yeah.
say like,
We tried. And
well, he's like, I think
Yeah.
that Gregory would have wanted you to be happy, and I think Gregory's probably happy now. I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Devastating. I the first time I played this game, I did weep. I openly just wept.
This one was tough. This was
I
the
had-
toughest vignette yet, for sure.
I had a few beers when I first played this, and at the end of this game, I was just like, fuck this shit, man. I'm alone in my studio apartment, just like, ugh. That part got me too. I teared up. I'm just, because the thought, like, it's the reason I don't want kids, frankly. It's just like, I don't need a thing that can just die so easy.
Well, if you take care of it, it doesn't.
Yeah,
You gotta
I don't
make
know.
sure you don't have a curse put upon your family for the next 500 years, man.
That old witch at the Renaissance fair told me. Yeah, that one was crazy. What's the one after that?
Before this one, we had Sam with the hunting photos.
That one is pretty rough because it explains a lot about Edie's mother in the same breath.
Yes.
There's an accidental death with the deer and hunting.
Yeah. Don't worry. It's as if it's still alive. It's fine. Just take the picture and knocks him off a cliff, which I don't know. You're out there hunting a wild animal. If it gets a chance to kill you, it's going to take it.
I also don't hang out near cliffs. I would say let's drag this away from the cliff.
There's a lot of cliffs in this game.
There's a ton of cliffs.
They're also very
lot of drops.
heavy.
Yes.
Yeah, he falls off.
I know that.
The reason, at this point, it was just Sam and
Not if you're buff like me.
Edie. Not Edie, Sam and Dawn, because Dawn was the only one left of Sam's kids, because at this point, Gus had also passed away, so it was Dawn, Gregory, and Gus. After the divorce, Sam wanted to remarry, and Gus said, fuck you, Dad. I don't want you to have a new wife. I don't want a new mom. So at the wedding, he was flying a kite like a badass out in a storm, says, I ain't going to be in your dumb wedding. And the dad, to his great parenting, says, sure, go fly a kite in a storm while I get married. I don't care. It's like, well, kids might die, I don't know. Pay attention to your children, I guess is the real moral of this story.
You know what I expected the first time I played it? I expected it to be a lightning strike and not the tent
Or the
killing
tent,
him.
Or, yeah, it could have been anything happened, but I thought maybe lightning was going to hit him.
I thought it was going to be lightning too, and that seems to be the most obvious way to do that. But they actually give you, I mean, I don't know. There's that whole segment where it's blowing shit around, and it looks very beautiful flying up there with all like the tassels and the lighting streaming behind it, and then it just whips right back at him. Like they're in like cementing the curse again, but you do wonder,
and you don't ever
what actually happened, because it might have just been even like more abrupt and crazier, like just a real freak accident.
They just found his body. They didn't I think ever know what really happened to him. But they also never mentioned the name of the woman who he was marrying, because I think she noped the fuck out of that family after this.
I would. It's like, wow, people die a lot around you.
And when you replay it, there's this great detail when you're walking down to the beach where all of the wedding chairs are in, like all the trees have wedding chairs still just like embedded everywhere in them, which I thought was a nice touch. But after Gregory and Gus, this is when you finally go up and you're in your mom's room for the first time. You're in Dawn's room and you learn about her wanting to go to India, where she meets your father, Sanjay. And the spouses of the Finches all die too, but they don't get any special memorials by Edith, because like, they're not part of my family, so they don't get to be memorialized.
I think it's more from the perspective of the developers being like, well, if we just included fucking everyone.
I mean, you could say that, but it's also their house, and Edie never put a spot for him. She didn't put like, there's no spot in the family.
No, there is.
There's no wood memorials. There's no like sewed out things.
There's
no
one
shrines.
there's one that Dawn made though in her bedroom that she would have shared with him.
She has a little spot for him, but not made by Edie, who is
No, I think Edie would only because Dawn wanted to be so far away from the family anyway. I don't think Edie really knew Sanjay.
Well, Sanjay, yeah, I don't know. I mean,
They probably didn't meet all that much.
do you think did Sanjay ever live at the house? No, Sanjay died in an earthquake, and that's when they must have came back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they needed a place to be, like with family. So she wouldn't have known him. How can she memorialize someone she doesn't know?
Yeah, I don't know. It just the spouses are always like a little more, you don't know as much about them. But Sanjay died in an earthquake, and that's okay. So the house had a finite number of rooms. Like, what are you going to do when all the rooms are boarded up?
You build onto it.
You put
build a tower.
You put a houseboat up there, and you make a tower. You know.
Yep.
Yeah, a castle.
Yeah, and you made this great point earlier. It's like, did the neighbors not call about any permits not being filed or anything?
Yeah.
I don't know if they do, because, I mean, sometimes you just assume people are okay doing whatever. The guy whose house I live at, his neighbor has been like doing construction on his house for the past year and a half. And every time I go over, he's like, man, I got to do this quick or else somebody's going to call and be like, and then the next thing I know, the city's going to be down here asking me for permits that I don't have. But he's an architect, so he knows what he's doing.
Right.
But the second, like, power
You need
tools,
permission
yeah.
to do stuff in your house by us.
Yeah, which is wild.
It's proof
But
that you don't own
just
anything.
because you're literally on the lake and they don't want anything
Going
flying
into the lake.
Yeah.
That makes sense. At the same time, this one, another thing I thought was they built a lot of this onto a tree. And
Yeah.
no matter how sturdy that fucking tree
We're
is.
talking about the video game now, not
Yeah.
my
Yeah. So they built a lot of like the later vignettes. They take place as you're moving up,
Right.
And one of them is literally just a boat on a tree. And one thing I said immediately was like, even in wind like this, that top of that tree is going to be moving a lot
Is this is the part where she reveals that she's pregnant, right?
near it.
Yeah, that was a little bit before where, I mean, maybe the Finches are not cursed. Maybe they're just idiots because they're pregnant and climbing around on trees and roofs when they don't need to be.
Right. So
Those dang Finches, because Edie perpetuated the myth of the family curse. I mean, in my opinion, the villain of the story is Edie. Edie is the driving factor for all of the negative things that happen
It's a
in
very.
their lives.
I don't think it's.
It's not. I don't think it's on purpose. I think that she suffers from a mental illness. There's a point where at the very end she's like, "You can't drink and take your medication, Mom," and she's like, "Fuck you! I'm gonna do what I want."
I think she knew she was going to die that day. I think that's the reason.
She didn't die that day.
She did. By the time the vans pulled up to take her to the nursing home, she was already gone, implying
Well, she was also a crazy old bitch.
She didn't disappear.
No, I didn't say she disappeared. I didn't say she disappeared, but I think she did suffer from mental illness. And I think, I mean, she imagined a lot of these stories, and she had a fantastical approach to life where everything had to be grander and bigger than it actually was when things were written down, especially for her family. Sven was killed by a dragon. We have a mole man living in the basement. The water has never been this low in 1,000 years. I was able to walk out to the house. The gate worked perfectly, although it was underwater for like 100 years. Doesn't matter. No rust.
The house was completely upright, even though you can see that it's not from the shoreline.
And a light turned on in the house. Like, no. There's nothing supernatural or spoopy here. This family has had a lot of unfortunate accidents, and y'all have been enabling some of this behavior too by putting a houseboat on top of a house, on top of a classroom, on top of a bedroom, and then a bedroom on top of that. What do you think was going to happen? How does the plumbing work?
I was also like, it can get cold in Seattle. How are you heating all this?
Yeah.
Right.
You don't see little separate heaters. You just tell them to go fuck themselves. Like if this took place in California, I'd be like, all right.
This is wild, man. You like living on the lake. I wake up and I
chilled
cannot
the fuck.
see
out
my front door onto the 5 feet in front of me with the amount of fog that comes off this. Seattle is just fog.
Yeah.
It's a city of fog.
Yeah.
If your house room is that high and you have to climb like 8 trees just to get to your front door, you're dead.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Oh, yeah.
Because you can't see anything.
Well, imagine coming home from the fish cannery. You have to walk upstairs. You have to climb up like a little climbing thing. You have to go through a classroom to climb on top of your houseboat, to light up your hookah, to play your Wonderland RuneScape game, and just get back to relaxing.
Oh, yeah.
That's way too much work
No,
to get upstairs.
I'd be late to work every day.
And he was late to home every day. First we meet, so then you get to see Edith Finch's brother's stories. Milton just disappeared. He was an artist, became one of the main characters of The Unfinished Swan.
The canon to that, I just think it was more of a reference. I literally don't think that it is the character from, because if you play that game, that is a complete like storybook about a little boy whose mom died. His mom didn't die before him.
But I don't know. It's a fun little tie-in, but the kid goes missing essentially, and he was a little artist boy.
Yeah.
But while we have time, we do need to talk about what I think we might all agree was the highlight, our favorite vignette.
Is this the fish one?
Yes.
The cannery.
Yeah, what happens in the cannery story, Dom?
Oh, man. This one's cool because from what I remember, it was...
Lewis is his name.
Yes. And he travels to like this Middle Eastern fantastical land of princes and princesses to I can't remember, but I do remember like murdering fish and sailing on a boat.
Yep.
Well, this I think strikes close home to a lot of our listeners and us as well, because we're all gamers and we all use escapism in our lives quite regularly, and we've all at some point in our lives probably had a very monotonous fucking job. And
No, it's like, and it's also the implication here is suicide.
well, I mean, everyone daydreams and everyone likes to.
Do you think it was an accident?
No, I don't think it was an accident, but I think it was something that is relatable to a lot of people at first, where you're having a job you hate, so you start imagining yourself somewhere else.
Oh, I still do,
but
even
then
with a job I like.
The dream becomes more real to you than your reality. And if you're sitting there cutting fish heads off all day, and that's what's so great about this is while you're watching the story grow and your character in this fantasy of his, you're also with the right thumbstick grabbing a fish, moving it to get his head chopped off, and throwing it away. This simple right and up motion that you have to do, otherwise the fish will pile up. But the story keeps getting more grand as his imagination does. And the dude, oh my gosh, it's the craziest ending where his imagination has become very real. And then you're meeting this queen or your prince, depending on how you want the story to go, in front of a fucking guillotine where you're about to get your crown. And because I imagine when he was doing the fish thing that he was going to lose his hand. or something because he was daydreaming too hard and just accidentally cut something off. But no, he put his head under there just like the fish and chopped his own head off.
Yeah.
And wanted out.
Yeah. There's in the way this one struck because I've dealt with a lot of stuff relative to this kind of depression. I mean, your theory about the whole family having some form of mental illness all throughout it, I think most families kind of do to some degree. I don't think any of us are completely like, mentally healthy. But I think that this is kind of proof that there's this layer of depression or even like manicness. You even talk about like Dawn's dad. Like that was obviously a depressed guy. Like the way he acted, the way he was trying to like in denial of things, how macho he wanted to be.
His twin brother died when he was a kid.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, and I mean, a lot of that stems from grief and stuff like that, but
there's nature and nurture to it.
Yeah.
I mean, there is definitely some families have a history of mental illness, but then you have Edie, who is pushing on, our family dies in the craziest ways. This is so like is you're a Finch, and this is gonna happen. Like this is who we are.
And you don't know where, and you don't know when,
and then
unless you fly,
and then
kites in a storm.
Barbara died. We better get another one done. And there's a great detail I like that Lewis dies, and then they have like a week before they're gone. She has already put something on his gravestone, a crown on his gravestone. Yeah. She is so fast to work to like get the shrine set up. That's so important to Edie and keeping the legacy going instead of just spend time with the family. Like
you know what it reminds me of. You know how pharaohs would have like their servants and stuff buried with them.
Fucking greedy, man.
Yeah,
buried alive with them.
Like all their shit and all their things, and literally like maybe Edie was creating her own tomb. Maybe this is her like Great Pyramid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense.
I think she killed herself too. I mean, she knew she was going to die because the thought of her going to a home instead of her big elaborate tomb that she created for herself that she wanted to live forever in.
She wanted to choose her own ending.
Her room was boarded up.
She had to board it up herself then.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So she had to board it up after the family left, probably.
So, she couldn't have died in the room then if we're going to do that kind of math problem.
Unless she boarded it up from the inside. I guess
I would imagine she may have died on the couch or something. Who knows?
I mean, if the whole thing's her tomb, she could be anywhere.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't matter.
Yeah. I mean, anywhere in the house. It was her house. Mm-hmm. She was what was it? She died at age like 93. I think that's how old she was in canon. Somewhere around there. Because you see pictures of young Edith at a 90-year celebration. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. She must have been near 100.
At the very end of this story here, you get to the top, you get to Edith's room. And there's a scene where you see your mom and Edie fighting about the family legacy, and Edie tries to give you a book and says she deserves to know these stories, and the mom says these stories are the reason everyone's dying around here. You need to stop this. Mm-hmm. They run away. Edie gets left at the house, and then she's found dead, but her mom dies kind of suddenly from an illness, and there's a scene where she's on the deathbed, and you
say 3 years later or something like that?
Something like that. And you grab her hand, and as someone who's lost his mom and knows what it's like to see that scene, it's like
heart-wrenching.
This is a game about grief. This is a great game about dealing with complex family relationships and emotions and acceptance.
Well, it's so well illustrated too. What's so great about this game, in a way that I don't think, if these writers are extremely talented, first of all, I do have to give everyone who had anything to do with any of the dialogue props, because everything seemed so natural, and every character you meet, the way they talk to each other or the way that it's explained what's happening, everything feels very naturalistic in that way, where I never got to the point where I'm like, well, that's bullshit. It never happens.
The inner monologue of Molly describing how a child would imagine things.
Yeah.
It's like, I get it. You're nailing it.
And then I was a kitty, and then I was a dragon monster.
I was so hungry.
Yeah.
Then when the monster's under her bed, I was like, oh, shit. This is good storytelling here. The mom dies. The journal is left to Edith's son because Edith has passed away in childbirth.
Crazy.
Because she's a Finch, not because accidents can happen.
Right.
But I wish Jack was just narrating the whole game.
Do you think she was so the implication I got from that is that she was probably hiding her pregnancy, and I'm going to imagine she died during childbirth because she was trying to hide the situation.
We don't know she was trying to hide it. Who'd she be trying to hide it from?
they're all dead.
I mean, you couldn't, but I mean, you can actually. It happens
From
all the
herself,
time.
she was trying to hide it from
Well, she's got to be in some sort of system, right?
Who's his father?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that could be anyone.
That could be one reason why she's hiding it.
It was the boyfriend of Barbara. No.
Wow, ancient.
But then there's a sequence at the end where you are Edith's baby coming out of a vagina, and you are you're born.
Yeah, this part.
And you are reading her journal, and Edith is dead.
Yeah.
Boom.
The end. Yeah.
And then it says, "Coming next year, what remains of Edith Finch 2?" No.
Also?
Son of Finch.
What also remains? Son of Finch. Originally titled "The Nightmares of Edith Finch."
That is a horrible title.
Yeah, I'm glad they changed it.
What Remains of Edith Finch is so evocative almost immediately. It's almost a little too hipstery at first, but when you start playing the game, you actually kind of you're like, okay.
Well, I just love the double meaning because there's two Edith Finches, so you're not sure. So it represents both of them, so it's ambiguous as like.
But I also don't see it as like a death thing. What remains of someone, I think it can be kind of not even just spiritual, but metaphorical. Like what remains of her family, like what remains of who she was.
Or
like,
what remains of their bedrooms, of their memories, of who's still alive.
I never took it when I read it the first time. I'm like, I don't see it as like a death thing. That seems to be your read for the title.
Well, it's like you said, I think it has multiple meanings, but the reason I said that is because we were about to spoil it, and it just so happens that this video game is about death and the hardships that go with it, and that if you don't know that that's what you're about to get into, it's in the title, which is why I brought that up.
Well, what's so crazy about it is it's less about the actual death and it's more about the people that get left behind and have to deal with it, and how that causes like this crazy chain reaction through generations. I find that to be just fascinating. The way they tell these stories too, it's so atmospheric. And as someone who's just obsessed with art design, that's my favorite thing about anything. I found it, if God, those artists are so talented. Can you imagine designing the levels of that house?
It's not
in
even
the rooms.
It's
I mean, mapping it out.
It's set design in the purest form. It's
Yes.
And
it's almost art installation.
Well, it's great because each room is from a different year, a different time period.
Yeah.
So, yep. Oh, this is the child star's room, so this needs to be all over here. And this girl was just a child when she passed away. She liked castles and fish.
Yeah, man. I don't like saying crap like this because it's so rote at this point. But like the house is a character.
Yeah, I mean, it's the cover image that everyone associates with the game.
Yeah. The silhouette, yeah.
Coming from our Discord from Phil E., he says, I did not care for this as a video game and found the plot to be okay at best. It was far too passive of an experience. I'm all for video games evolving as an entertainment medium, but I do go to them first and foremost for interactivity. This game's high points are when I felt the most agency, those being Barbara's story and the game within a game that was Lewis's demise. These were also the two characters I felt could be seen as tragic, while many of the other deaths were due to negligence or foolishness, which is true.
Yes, yeah.
You don't put a swing next to a cliff, and you don't put a baby in the bathtub alone just to answer the phone. Yes. That said, I think this game would have made a much better VR experience, heightening the connection to the environment and sense of exploration, except for the swing element.
Yeah, no, take that bit out, and it probably could go all the way in VR. But yeah, that part made me very sick.
Yeah, I mean,
as long as there's no teleportation, you have to use a controller.
No, it would all be walking just like you are.
I think
because it's slow enough not to dizzy anyone.
It would be a perfect VR experience almost. Unless you have to be from the shark's perspective falling down the cliff, because that would have fucking sucked.
As long as you're in third person, it doesn't matter.
Third person's good for that. Judge Tempest asks, what was everyone's favorite character story?
You mean which death was our favorite?
Yeah, I mean...
Essentially,
Yeah, I guess... I mean,
I think the comic book one was fun for me.
That one was maybe one of the ones I keep thinking about. Yeah, the cannery though. That is the clear winner.
I think the cannery, for sure. Like when you get to the end, you're like, oh.
But no, I liked this idea of having to separate your right and left brain in order to do one task and then do the other.
That's absolutely separating your right brain and left brain too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like there's one where you just have to focus on a repetitive task, and the other one you have to be a little more active and engaged. And I thought that it was brilliant. It doesn't ask a lot of you because it's mostly wandering a hallway or like steering a boat down canals. But I really do think that and especially like right towards the end where you shift perspective and you are the character outside of, I'm sorry, I forget his name already.
Lewis,
thank you. You are Lewis's character now walking through the halls of this cannery, watching Lewis do the same repetitive job.
And you just see those black light posters he wishes he was at, you know?
Yeah, he wanted to disappear into another world, and he found a way to do it.
And he had the same room as my dorm room in college.
Yeah, bro. Did you have a Bob Marley?
I had.
Oh my God, yes.
I had a lot of black light.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Like what? Led Zeppelin?
Not that I'd ever listened to Zeppelin, but yes, I had Zeppelin.
Oh,
wow.
Fuck you.
Dude, I'm from South Dakota. We don't have music. And my favorite one would be
Y'all whistle.
My favorite one would be Gregory. I was taken aback at the beauty and the horror and the tragedy, all encompassing that one story.
Hark the voice of Jesus calling. Come and work for him today. The fearless one and the harvest falling. Come and work for him today. You've got to walk that lonesome valley.
Dylan,
What's up?
why did you choose Kentucky Route Zero?
I chose Kentucky Route Zero because I think, and I think Edith Finch kind of has this stigma to it. And I immediately, when I was able to play this game, which I got a PC, when I got it, I'd been wanting to play it for years and years. I'm talking even like 7 years. I just couldn't play it because I didn't have a PC. And I was like, oh, this game looks really interesting. I start playing it. I'm like, this isn't even a video game. There's not much real interactivity to it. And as I got to thinking about it, I said, well, Dylan, you should be critiquing this like a piece of art. Like, actually think about it. Like, what is it trying to do?
And then you said, quiet, inner Dylan.
No. And what is actually happening? And what is it providing for you? Like, and I had to eventually say, like, oh, this is barely a video game. And
It's more than a video game.
it's not more than a video game. It's not really, to me, a video game. It's on a video game system, but I read it more now as just a piece of art. To me, it kind of transcends itself, because when you talk about games, you can interact with anything, though. Not everything's a video game that you could do on a screen.
This is a very unique experience.
Yeah.
I'm asking both of you, and let's start with you, Brad. What was your general? Because you played it all the way through, you had all 5 acts available to you right away.
Correct.
What was your parting thoughts at the end of Act 5?
Sadness, anger. I thought the game was stunning. I thought it was inventive in its way of exploring ideas. It was uncanny in that there were certain things that defied explanation. It was David Lynch. It was the Coen brothers. It was some of the greatest. It was some of the greatest aspects of storytelling from all different mediums put together in a giant melting pot in a way that I think so many artists strive to achieve, and everybody, most fail to dramatically. I used to work in a modern art center in the Twin Cities, and I've read many books, and I studied film, and I studied some paintings, composition, and everything this game is doing is all of that rolled into one. And
it's an American opus.
It's a tragic ghost story about America.
It's that's what I'm saying. It is almost an art installation. It is an American opus. It's this story that is like this crazy pseudo mystical realism folktale that it defies logic. It's asking you to both see something figural and abstract at the same time, and it's hoping that you accept it, and you just do because it's that well crafted.
Well, if you haven't played the game, you're like, whoa, what is going on here?
Yeah.
We were originally going to have this one on the previous episode, but due to scheduling reasons, it wound up being on this one. So this is a Kickstarter game, so I wanted to talk some of those stats quick. In 2011, they sought $6,500 to make this game. They were able to raise $8,583 to make what many people consider to be one of the games of the decade.
Yes.
205 backers. There were no stretch goals, but there was the unique pledge of $500 would get you a unique antique in game. The first act was released January 2013. The last act only came out last year in January 2020.
I played it at midnight, man. I was so excited.
And man, there's a lot to this game. But created by Cardboard Computer, published by Annapurna Interactive. Designers Jake Elliott's the writer, Thomas Kamensky is the artist, Ben Babbitt is the composer. Some other people were involved, but that's the primary three. It is a point-and-click game that contains text-driven dialogue with focus on storytelling and atmosphere. Conway is a delivery man for an antique store, and he's got one more delivery to make before he can retire. And it sounds a lot more exciting. It is exciting, but not like one more day. It's not that at all. But
it's not I'm getting too old for this shit type of thing.
He's got no opinion on that. Yeah,
because I remember you describing this game to me back in the day, Dylan. It's about this guy has to make a delivery, and there's this highway that's underground, and it goes between realms, metaphysical highway. And I was like, man, Dylan likes some weird shit, doesn't he?
It only got weirder, baby.
If this is like your first episode listening to us, and because you're like, I want to know more about this game.
Yeah.
It is a difficult one to just put down in words.
You have to know someone before you can recommend this one.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I recommend it to everyone, but I always give caveats because you have to. I think when I recommended it to you, Dom, I said, just don't go in expecting a pure adventure game. Everything's just about intention. It's kind of like building your own novel. I think that's how I described it.
I don't know who recommended it to me. I don't know if it was just I saw a picture of a dog wearing a straw hat and it was on sale. But I do remember telling you that I had just bought it and you were like, oh yeah. Oh, please tell me what you think. I finally have someone to talk to. Okay. And I remember telling you when I had gotten through the first 2 acts and you were like, so tell me what you think. And I was like, I don't really like it. But then you gave me the whole just sit back and let it take you for the ride that it's supposed to be.
Yep.
The metaphysical highway underneath Kentucky. Just strap in and just let it take you.
Yeah.
Don't worry about trying to fucking understand this game because you're probably not going to, and that's fine.
It's about character and it's about atmosphere.
Yes.
So, so there's one thing that I like about this game, and that a lot of people were asking the creators, so is there going to be multiple endings because there's a lot of choices? And they say, no, there's one ending because it's a tragedy.
Yeah.
We all know how it's going to end, but what this game I think does different than some text games, I don't know, it's you choose the story that's being told. There's just you're not only defining your characters, you're defining the past. Someone will ask you a question and you can say, I was thinking about this day that this child died. I was thinking about nothing much. I was thinking about what I want to eat later. And it's what you feel as a person playing the game that shapes the story. So you feel authorship on the characters and the story, and you get to mold the world, which it starts off subtle because just the I remember trying to look up before starting, what's the dog's name? Because I was doing some Photoshop.
Homer or Blue.
You can
nothing.
choose it.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's his name is Homer, her name is Blue, or I don't know, it's just some dog. And those three different answers, like you can define Conway as, I don't care, this dog is just here. He's just I don't know its name.
Hangs out with me.
And I don't know that there is a lot of creativity that you get to do just by choosing the dialogue. So I didn't love Act 1 when it started because I was like, I don't know, it's slow, and I get that I can see what they're up to. There's some really cool design. Everything looks stunning and very simple in a good way. But
The map is really cool and interesting looking. It's kind of oddly topographical, but at the same time, it's the literal interpretation of a highway system.
and at the same time, it could be made in an Atari.
Yeah.
Which is a beautiful compliment that it can be all those things at once.
Yep.
It looks like a game that could be made for not a lot of money, but it achieves so much through its storytelling with that.
Well, one of the things I like about this, and because when I really went down into it, why I was enjoying myself and because my stupid art school critique brain was going off the charts for this. I said, it's like looking at a painting. The painting's not going to demand anything of you. Video games demand things of you. This doesn't demand anything of you more than what you're not willing to put into it. You'll gain a lot by looking at a painting for a long time. You'll see the minuscule brushstrokes, and you'll understand like the little elements that stand out, and you'll find like little tips and tricks. If you're also an artist, you'll say like, oh, they did like a brushstroke this way. That's what I ended up liking about it most. I will say this, it's definitely not for everyone. A video game by definition also includes the word game. And in terms of a game, the most you'll be doing is selecting text and walking around. That's pretty much it. What
This game does so well is how it explores the themes of America and I don't want to use the term storytelling, but artifacts of preserving a point in time, be it tape recording, be it a script from a play, be it a musical piece. It takes all of these different elements and is able to evoke the ideas that they're trying to explore without it hitting you over the head. Like you're in a cave and they're describing, well, there were some folk artists down here just trying to catch the sounds of the people, and then the cave collapsed. And I think it was interesting reading some of the backstory. I mean, this game was conceived in the aftermath of the 2008 recession when people were losing homes, people were losing jobs.
Yep.
And this is definitely an American tragedy where most of the characters, except for the two robots who are folk singers, them too, they were forced to have positions, but they become wandering lost souls because of the corporations and the America they're forced to live in.
Yep.
It makes you think inward. When you go to the Museum of Dwellings and you have to look at houses and dog houses, and it forces you to look at things critically, which a lot of games, they serve it up on a platter or they take it easy on this stuff. But this is David Lynch. This is Stanley Kubrick. This is very far away. You get what you put into this game. And if you are willing to put a lot of yourself into it and think about what they're possibly trying to talk about.
Well, it's symbolism. I mean, even little Ezra, he rides on the back of a giant bald eagle.
Julian, right?
His brother.
Yeah, who's his brother. And there's the characters all have this like archetypical kind of nature to them. And they all represent a different aspect of it's people you've met. This game is a ghost story in the fact that it's trying to tell you that it's trying to remind you that everything is changing and that there are some weird things in the past that will never exist ever again. No, like literally you bury two horses called neighbors. It is.
I think that is the encapsulation of the theme.
Yes. And everyone mourns the idea of neighbors, but they don't get rid of the idea of friends.
We'll talk about the neighbors. Let's save that for a little bit later.
All right.
So it's broken into 5 acts, which were released periodically as they were creating them. Mm-hmm. One thing that I love is the Greek chorus that ends every act, which it's the Bedquilt Ramblers.
Oh, I love that first song. It's so good.
You've got to walk. Well, and you said it's a ghost story. It's also a folktale.
Yep.
And it's definitely got all of the elements of an American folktale of a lost soul looking for an answer, meeting characters along the way. And then there's always just Emily, Ben, and Bob, the Greek chorus.
Yeah.
Which are other actually characters you see in a few different spots, but
aren't they the ones playing the
D&D,
Dungeons and Dragons underneath the gas station?
And they're also the ones that are hunting ghosts in between Act 4 and 5 in the TV station.
That's also a time loop. Emily, Ben, and Bob.
Some would say a Kentucky Route 0.
Yes. Literally,
oh my God.
Conway sees the Conway sees the ghost of the future because Emily, Ben, and Bob are technically corporeal beings, and he what you see in the beginning under Equus gas station is at the end of Act 5. They're talking about how they want to play this game because they found this 20-sided die.
He finds the die
in the beginning? Yep.
He puts it in his jacket, and then
you can leave it.
You can leave it, but they'll still find it anyway.
Dude, so, okay. Act 2 takes you to the Bureau of Reclaimed Spaces, to the St. Thomas Church, which has become like a file depository for this place because the religious people left, and the Museum of Dwellings. I can so see this as some wicked satire by Terry Gilliam or David Lynch. Just imagine
going
to
like a Brazil.
And it'd just be like over-the-top set design and like crazy dialogue. The 4th floor has bears. Go to the 5th floor. And it's outlandish in such a good way. So you do make it on the Kentucky Route 0, but you get lost on there because nothing
it's
travels.
a circle.
It's a circle, but you have to do like certain turnarounds here and there. You wind up going to the Bureau of Reclaimed Spaces. You meet a bunch of characters, and we're not going to talk too much about.
We don't need
a
to
lot
get
of
into
the
the
story.
minutia.
The story isn't what matters. It's about the ideas that it kind of explores.
Exactly.
Conway's got to get these antiques to 5 Dogwood Drive.
The only thing that really matters is that at this point Conway has hurt his leg, and he needs to get his leg fixed. So he goes to the Museum of Dwellings to go and find a doctor suggested by Lula Chamberlain from the Bureau of Reclaimed Spaces. Mm-hmm. He flies on an eagle with Ezra from there to a forest. Because the eagle flies the houses from the Museum of Dwellings to the forest every night because they'd be more comfortable sleeping there instead of a museum. And I'm like, okay, yep. But after the surgery, the doctor, you wake up and he's like, we got to talk about the payment plans, which I'm like, fuck you, fuck our healthcare system because I know how much it costs. And the first thing he starts talking about is we need to talk about how you're going to pay for this. Right. And his leg is glowing and the
skeletal.
Yeah. I mean, that's, I don't want to say that's debt or that's pain or that's
crippling debt.
Yeah. Crippling debt. My God. Yep. Oh, we mentioned crippling debt, which means we have to start drinking the Hard Times whiskey here.
Oh,
so did you guys know?
This is actually Stonehammer Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey.
It says it's from the Hard Time Boys from Kentucky Route 0. I don't know the distillery.
Listen, if I could just move to Kentucky and actually start making that, I would do it.
Do you guys know between? All right, let's take a drink of our. Wait, Dylan's got to pour a little for himself here. You got to go to the Lonesome Valley.
I'll fly away, oh darling, I'll fly away.
To me, well, oh wait, before we get to that. So between the acts, at least in the TV edition, there are these little intermissions. Mm-hmm. Do you know what those originally come from? These were all real world art exhibits that they put on.
Oh, no shit.
No shit. So Limits and Demonstrations was a real, all those things you saw were a real art exhibit that they did. I think it was in San Francisco. And people,
Wish I could have seen that shit.
it got shut down after a few days because the building wasn't paying its bills. I'm like, talk
Of
about
course it was.
talk about art impersonating
my
reality.
Gosh, did they like find a place that? Was
I doubt they would have. Because when you do art because it's all about art
I know,
installations.
but what are the like odds of that happening?
Okay,
You
but
know
so
what I
that was
mean?
that was one of them. The next one is the entertainment, and this is where there is a script being performed by some actors. This was done. This was originally a virtual reality game that they created, and it was played at where was it at? It was for Oculus Rift. Oh, it doesn't say what. It was at like some video game conventions, but to play it, you'd put the headset on. You actually have to sit at a table with a brick between two pieces of bread in front of you while you played the game, and everyone just saw you like being the fly on the wall character.
Yeah.
There was a brick.
Well, it was a brick sandwich in that thing, which is a joke about.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Here and there along the Echo is an automated phone call. The number still works in the real world. I tried it. You can actually call that number and
Can't be that much to keep up.
It can't be that much to keep up. There was actually phones auctioned off in real life. So you could actually get a phone that was like, here's a phone from Kentucky Route Zero. And this, like that piece of art still exists. And then the last one was, Act 4 is long.
Act 4 is the longest
It's
one.
the news studio.
The news studio was a website that is still it's actually archived. You can't go to the original one, but the scene that you do in that where like you're wandering around the news studio, that entire like 40-minute production, there's even more to it, was performed by real actors and people. You can see the awkward like cheap
yeah.
budget stuff. And you can see the end where it goes black or whatever, and then the
storm
signal's
hits.
taken over. So those are all real life art installations that were put on, which just blows my mind because this is exploring art in all of its forms. So it's so cool that they did these things.
Was this to promote the video game?
This was just part of the experience. The fact that Dylan, who loves this game, didn't know about it means this wasn't something they pushed hard. This is something that I think they did probably a lot for
those
themselves.
in the know.
Yeah, probably for Kickstarter backers. They were informed on a lot of this.
Well, and I know we're raw dogs, but I don't always like to delve too much into the creation of a lot of the things I like. There are certain situations where I want them to remain, I guess pure is not the word, but maybe that's also the word. Like pure experiences where I don't, like I have the thing, I don't need to know who made it. I just have to know that someone made something I loved.
I was worried by doing research before the episode where it's like maybe you guys had very different experiences happen and maybe if I were to read in it, it would inform me differently. But no, it's pretty straightforward. The characters are who you think they are. There are some weird intersecting stuff, but Act 3 has this moment where, well, it starts off with Junebug and Johnny. Cricket, as Junebug calls him. Two of my favorite characters and my favorite moment of the game. I think you said the same, Dom.
Yeah. It took me by surprise where you meet these characters and again with all the art and just interpretation and all this sort of stuff, just the fact that when they're walking around and it makes like the robot noises and you're like, what is that all about? Like I get it, they're like this trance folk like band, but why?
How many folk? It's like they're folk music, but Johnny also plays a guitar.
Yeah.
There's so much style. These two. Yeah, they're two musicians that are late for a show. They help you fix the truck up, and then you go to the show at the lower depths. Like, yeah, I'd drink there. That sounds cool.
It's a good ass looking bar. Are you kidding me?
Despite the fact that they only have Hard Times whiskey, and they can't pay the band because
They're in debt.
well, and at this point, the guy describes that we can't pay you because we've even sold our customers' debt, which is like a crazy concept. Like our debt has been like some customers owe us, and we sold their debt to another person. We sold.
It's a great commentary.
Oh man, fuck!
It's
fuck
things
the
that
system.
corporations do, though.
Oh, it makes me so upset. And all the characters at this point, you just realize that they're all really fucked. and they don't have any answers at this point. So they receive an IOU for the Hard Times distillery. So like they're going to go down there to try and collect from the distillery. But before they do, Junebug and Johnny have to perform what is, I think,
It's phenomenal.
Opens up and they start floating up into the air, and just the song itself is just beautifully haunting. And
it's great that you get to choose the lyrics.
Choose the lyrics,
it's so dope. And like it's obviously like pre-whatever, but
it's pre-recorded, but it all fits.
When you
the same
go
way.
back onto like Apple Music or Spotify or whatever, and you listen to the song, you're like, I don't remember what I chose, but this is definitely that song, and it feels like this is still the same song that I chose.
Yeah.
You know, it's great. It has a very haunting, unnatural element to it, and I know what one part of it is, and it's that Ben Babbitt, the lead singer of the Bedquilt Ramblers, is also Junebug, and the voice is through heavy modulation to make him sound like a female. And
really?
I didn't know that. And that's why when you watch on the TV performance from that one, like if you go to the TV channel, they have a performance by Junebug, and it's actually Ben Babbitt dressed up as like a female robot. It's fucking art, man. That is art.
Maybe that's why they have robot legs when they walk, just for that one art installation decision.
Yeah, maybe. But
Junebug's an empty shell of a man.
Yeah, you get to go to the Hall of the Mountain King and play Tom's favorite game from when he was a child, Xanadu. This is where you meet another character who is living in a cave with all of his computers because he has refused to move on with it when his partners were maybe in love with each other and ran away without him. He's like, I'm just going to stay here and do what we said we were going to do, you dicks.
This is another game where the characters feel pretty well realized, because they're usually all based on specific emotions. And so you kind of get this idea that everyone has these weird lives they've already lived even before that just means that these are well drawn characters, like literally and figuratively. The way they talk to you is just so like interesting right away. There is a version of this game where they all talk like Final Fantasy NPCs, and it's garbage.
Yeah. You need to fix Xanadu. This is when you wind up going to Hard Times Distillery and you meet the Hard Times boys, which are the glowy skeletons, the glowy skellies, which is interesting to watch in itself as someone who worked for like in delivery for a long time. Sure. It's cool to see that. But at the end, they're like, oh, well, that was training. It's time for your shift drink. And Shannon, the TV repairman lady who's traveling with you, says, I don't think that's a good idea. And with the PC version, the mouse, you can't move it away. It just goes right to the drink, which is something you didn't get in the TV edition.
It's like at that point, I'm just like, oh, yeah, shit. No, like Conway's got no choice.
Oh, to me, I just saw Jack Nicholson from The Shining. Just like when you take a gulp of that whiskey and it's like, I just did something that I can't take back. I have made a deal with someone now. And
well, we talked about that he's a recovering alcoholic yet?
No, we did not, but that's definitely true.
Right.
But it's also the choice he has to make through getting medication, which he can't afford because he just got this surgery, or drinking. That's it. Those are the two things he gets to have the choice of, and so he's going to choose the drinking. And another thing that's like giving him shit throughout this entire game is literally like, well, I can't really retire, but this is the last delivery I can do for Lizette.
Well, the guy, as soon as you take the drink, and they're like, well, we're not coming back. He's like, well, that was pretty expensive, that drink you just had, so we're going to have to bill you, and you're going to have to work it off. And that my time having this tour took a long time. That costs a lot of money, so you're in debt. And this is when I started getting very upset with the game, because it's starting to explore something that everybody in our generation is too familiar with, and that's debt.
Substantial debt.
Substantial debt, and it being
have
in
no
a
choice.
hole it's almost impossible to crawl out of. We're fucking down on the zero.
Oh, yeah.
We're all lost. Thank God there's folk music and androids, but otherwise we're all fucked.
Well, I mostly wonder, and I wonder, how old are these developers? Do you happen to know?
I think that, I mean,
They're around
They're
there.
at least
I imagine-
10, right? How long did this game take to come
10.
out?
They were 1 and they started coding.
I imagine they're between 20 and 35 now.
They gotta be somewhere in like their 40s.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna make that guess. These are clearly people who understand. These are clearly people with an understanding of rural society and kind of the weird, there's a mythology that's being lost the more we become an urban civilization. Mm-hmm. And what I loved about even the maps on the Zero or the overworld map is that you pass like burning trees, factories that produce artificial limbs and all this other stuff, and you're just like it's almost like memories of stuff you already knew existed. And you're just reminded like, oh, that'll never exist anymore. These things can't exist. And that's what this whole game is about. It's just like, well, even the highway system eventually is just going to be this like straight up like point A to point B. We're not going to care about any of the shit in between. I mean, look at how awful the roads look in that. That's not how roads are set up in any real way anymore.
No, we're all on a grid now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Conway fucking just gives in. He's like, okay.
He goes with them.
Well, not immediately, but he
Yeah.
says, I have to go back. I have to go work now tomorrow. I guess I'm just going to work there the rest of my life. And I've never been kind of more quietly upset that someone was a day away from retirement. And they have found out and given in that they will never get to retire and they need to work until they're dead. And maybe afterwards, because they're all glowy boys.
I think the skeletons aren't actually dead guys, but yeah,
they're substantially dead anyways.
If the representation of his leg is the amount of debt that he has gotten just from having to have his leg fixed, these guys are in so much debt they're in it literally up to their eyeballs.
Yeah,
and the Hard Times Distillery is kind of a pyramid scheme too. You can kind of tell that everyone's just kind of trying to fuck everyone over.
Yeah, push it.
It represents this kind of corporate nature that I find, like Brad, extremely disgusting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm still upset.
Yeah.
Act 4 is takes place on the Echo River when you're on the Mucky Mammoth Ferry.
I fucking love this segment. I think it's really good.
Yeah. Act 3 and 4 I thought were both really great. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just another bunch of vignettes. I guess what's unique about this one is you get to choose, do I want to do this or do that?
Right.
And most of it is you want to go off the ship or stay on the ship. And there's only one time I opted to stay on because it was stay with the dog and the other dog and see what they do. And I'm like, finally, I can learn more.
Dog on dog action?
Well, it's like I didn't know these are the only characters that we know nothing about.
Yeah.
And I thought maybe we'll see anything.
Yeah.
No, it's just the dog sitting there for like up 30 seconds and then it just goes to the next
hanging
scene.
out on the boat. It's so good.
Well, you go to the rum beach,
Which
cool
is
like Margaritaville.
because doesn't the narrator tell you what you missed out on while you're riding down the boat?
And well, even at the end of it, you get to kind of choose some of the things that you missed out on. Like you get to have just like quick little, this happened, this happened, this happened. And you get to choose kind of what would have been there if you had chosen the other option. But I don't know. You just go to a gas station. Some guy thought he was going to have meeting up with an online date.
Oh, yeah.
That one's funny.
That is good.
Yeah. Junebug meets Norm and he asks her to help him with his dating profile. Mm-hmm. And he's like, should I mention that I have kids or not? And then you can respond, no, yes, or why would you be ashamed you have kids?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's just one of those great moments that kind of says a lot about
Where we are.
Yeah, who you
Trust
are.
me, as someone, me literally.
Yeah, there's some other things happen here. The rum colony.
I love the Rum Colony. I think that is such a good vibe.
Is that the tiki bar?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Conway is just having the time of his fucking life. He's just
drunk.
sitting alone. Oh, he's drunk as shit. But it also, it feels like a place I've been. This feels like a bar up in like northeast Wisconsin that I've fucking been to. You travel on a pontoon boat in like Crivets, and you pull up to one of these like shacks on the side, like the bars on the side, and they turned the volleyball area into like a mini like tiki bar just to kind of be cute about it. And it reminds me of when I was younger. And then they string up all the lights, and it's atmospheric. It's nighttime. The adults are drunk as shit, so they let the kids do whatever. I mean, you see Ezra running around, right? Like
Yep.
he's just doing whatever the hell he wants, and nobody cares because everyone's too fucking lit up.
There's a little sequence where you can ask the bartender for a drink, and he says, "What do you want?" And you can say, "What do you got?" And then he'll say a drink, and it's always rum, something, and dried jerky or something like that. And you can say, "What else you got?" And you can say it for, I tried maybe 5 minutes, and I was just waiting to see if it would ever end. But no, it's kind of randomly generated.
Right. It has to be like millions of options because I never got the same one twice.
And I think
it's
probably randomly generated. They have 10 different ingredients or something, and then eventually you would get the same things. But I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
You wait in line to speak at a phone. You go to the Radovansky Center where you fill out a questionnaire and you acquire a cat, which is cool. You learned about mushroom hunting, but then the big sequence is the Echo River Central Exchange, where Conway and Shannon get sent on a boat, and you have to go through a bat sanctuary to go to the Central Exchange to drop off some stuff. But at the very beginning of the bat sanctuary is this memorial, and it's from a bunch of miners who passed away because the company bought out the mine, and they refused to pay for safety devices that should have been in place, and so all of us are dead. So and they're like, "Fuck the company, fuck the power company. This was our spot, and we all died here because of them."
Yeah.
And
Isn't Shannon's like parents involved in this somehow?
Yeah, they died in a collapse where it flooded, and they started running out of lights because the power company didn't want to pay for the lights. They weren't able to use canaries because he had to use special tokens.
This is the same mine that Conway hurt his leg in.
Yeah.
Again.
It's
full circle.
The metaphor is workforce, and like
Zero.
Matthew McConaughey is just like, "Oh yeah, it's all coming together."
I used to play Kentucky Route Zero before they paid me to play
Now
Kentucky
Louisiana Route Zero. That's
the zero is a flat circle.
That is the fucking quote of the episode. The zero is a flat circle. Well, yes.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
In its nature, of course. At this point, though, Shannon gets off the boat to talk to some people off the boat, make the delivery. But you see Conway just float by with two other skeletons. And he's a full skeleton at this point. And he's just gone. And you don't see Conway again.
Ever again. Nope.
And that was
surprising.
It's surprising in a very big moment because this was the main character starting off the game.
Yeah.
And for him to just disappear.
Shannon is, to me, the character of the game, personally. But Conway, definitely, you feel like this kind of sense of, like, I like this old timer.
Yeah, the Game of Thrones did.
Yeah.
But wait, no, he's
not dead. He's just working for
right, but
the hard times.
You know what I mean? Like when Sean Bean's character gets beheaded in Game of Thrones. Spoiler alert for those of you who haven't seen a 17-year-old TV show.
So I think
you know
Conway's story,
right? But it gives you that like I've been betrayed.
Yeah, it does give you the feeling because you've actually become very attached to the character. I think the whole like kind of arc of Conway is realizing that he had one last job to do, and he was staring down the barrel of having nothing to do.
Of a 45.
Yeah, but he didn't want to be alone with his feelings, so either he would become an alcoholic or he would delve into his work.
Well,
or he needed any type of work, and someone gave him some purpose.
He had a new family, the friends he met along the way.
Well, and I
don't think he saw it that way, though.
No, he didn't. But I think ultimately, Act 5, is
gnarly crazy. It's a real shift.
So Shannon has acquired his truck because Conway mentions you can have the truck when I go to work.
Yeah.
And so they all decide we're going to just finish the delivery and then we'll all go our own separate ways or figure it out from there. They get to where they need to go up to 5 Dogwood Drive. They have to leave the truck at the bottom and carry all the antiques upstairs.
Yeah.
And who knows how long that thing is?
And who knows how many, you see how many antiques there were. It was a fuck ton.
Yeah.
Yeah, which means they had to carry a lot upstairs. If Julian was there, it would have been a little easier because he could just carry the whole truck.
Well, I mean, not through that hole. Bird can't fit through that hole.
Bird can't fit through that hole.
He's a big bird.
The big bird. Mm-hmm. Act 5 all takes
Jim
place.
Henson's funeral or something.
Cue it, Brad. Act 5 takes place all in one location. The city that was destroyed by the storm, the TV station that you controlled in the previous intermission, it's the city there. And all the townsfolk are talking about what they're going to do. We're going to rebuild. It turns out some horses were killed in the storm. Mm-hmm. So a lot of it is just talking to the townsfolk. You mostly play as a cat and just kind of run around and
you play as a glowing dragonfly that the cat follows.
That guides the cat, yes.
Yes.
But yeah, you just kind of learn what people are going to do, as well as our heroes. They finally get to 5 Dogwood Drive, and it is just a house frame, like a door frame.
Yeah, a shell.
And it makes you think of the Museum of Dwellings. Are we inside or outside?
Does it matter?
Both? Yes?
Mm-hmm.
No. Yes.
Yeah.
One of my favorites is when Junebug walks up to it, and she's like, and one of the options is, who lives here? We went through this whole game. Who the fuck lives here? And again, it doesn't matter.
It's not about where you're going. It matters how you get there.
Right.
It's so interesting as well because this well is the center of this Native American labyrinth, a labyrinth pattern design. And the entire point of this game, or this part of the game, is to move in a spiral pattern.
Or a zero.
Yes.
A spiral is a flat circle.
A flat circle.
You're still doing the zero, even as... But time
do the zero
passes.
sounds like a really weird dance that'd be associated with this game. They didn't get into interpretive dance, but do the zero.
I'm doing like jerk-off motions in the air.
Skeletons are just drinking whiskey in the background.
Yeah. And I
using their bones as xylophones.
Yeah, xylobones.
And this one lasts a long time, and this might be one that could test a lot of people's patience because to me it technically serves as an epilogue. And that's basically what it reads as because the climax has already occurred. The storm's already done, and now everyone has to deal with you made it to Dogwood Drive. Now what?
Well,
and everyone kind of wanders around. It's implied that days and days are occurring, even though they're not. Time has no meaning. They mention how old the horses were, and they say they were hundreds of years old. And you're just like, okay.
The horses, I think, represent an aspect of humanity that has been lost or something that we are unfamiliar with anymore, that the wild, free nature of ourselves, we have been tied down to dwellings and jobs and companies, and they were our neighbors, and they were an aspect of ourselves and the world that we live next to and we understand, but you bury them and you honor them, and there's a great song where everyone memorializes them, but the horse...
an old Appalachian spiritual. A very good one.
The horse is the symbol of the game. It's on most of the posters, if it's not the dog.
Yeah.
And it's also the gas station. And I think the horse is kind of what the theme, kind of an underlying theme that they have planted along the way. And it kind of represents what they want you to think about. Whether or not I got it right, but it could mean a lot of things. But
well, okay, so I'm actually curious what you think the symbolism of the horse is in terms of the story. or not even the story, just what they were going for.
Well, I mean, it's what has happened to humanity. We are shuffling along, lost in debt, following the American dream, which is tragically dead. And that's what a lot of the imagery evokes. You have Ezra, the bird, who is just flying houses around. And this, to me, the core ideas that I take away from the game are the concept of jobs, debt, being lost, and not knowing what to do. Just listen to good folk music and find a few people you like to spend time with along the way. And at the end, you get to choose, like, do we rebuild or do we move on to look for something else? And that is a very personal decision. But the horses, I think, they represent a part of us that is lost and something we need to celebrate and try and get in touch with. And that's life outside of the cycle of debt and American tragedy and greed and fuck the corporation. God damn it, I'm so upset.
I see the horse as a symbol in the game, especially as freedom, because these are, but
so
then
freedom's dead.
It is,
yes.
yeah. It's freedom.
100%. These are the people who.
But think about
our country is founded on people who. Yep. I'm sorry, I'm about to get
broke back.
Right.
Yeah.
We're founded by people who hold this American flag in one hand, waving it around, saying we're the most free country in the world, as they're whipping somebody who is essentially their slave. Yeah. This is who founded our country. It's fucking wild. It's bonkers. I can't believe when people are like, yeah, America's the greatest country in the world.
I don't think it's the greatest. I do think that there is.
It is one of.
It is. No,
there are worse ones.
I
just mean one of the countries of the world, not one of the greatest. It's one of the.
No. I go to bat for America every time, and I do it because the reason we've devolved so much is that we gave people certain freedoms, and like the awful aspect of it is when I see the horse, I see both freedom and work. I see the blend of the two because we've made these into literal like machines. We take a living thing and we turn it into a machine that helps us with our daily lives.
Workforce people.
But these used to be animals that roamed freely as well. Right. So they have that spirit. They're intelligent creatures.
I think there's a reason that one is black and one is white. It's the yin and the yang and the...
And
you're
they
exactly right.
And they are the neighbors. They are close to us, but they are not us. They're like
it's the myth of Cadejo. It's the two wolves on the trail. There's the white one or the black one, and you never know which one is actually the trickster god and which one isn't. Like the black one seems more intimidating because literally when they're burying them, they said, "Oh, I really just liked the silver, or I liked the silver one," and then I called the other one the other one. Mm-hmm. It's like we didn't bother naming them because we weren't actually thinking about it.
Well, and they weren't ours to name or whatever.
Yes.
Is what I think
yep.
they say.
You can. Yeah, that's one of the options for the dialogue. Because I played it today. I openly like. I wept at this game too. I did it today. I was just like, it hit me. I was just like, oh shit! Like this is so well written and so it is. I don't know. Yeah, I don't want to gush too much.
Right.
But
I interpreted this as like I couldn't tell if ever because all of a sudden all these characters are coming back that at the beginning of the game you see playing D&D and they disappear and you're in front of the exit. They can't have gotten past you. Right? So are they not meant to be people or what I took this part of because there's like ghosts walking around. I was like, are they in limbo? Are they all dead? I don't want to make this like the ending of Lost or whatever, but...
No, this is...
I mean, if you're riding on the back of an eagle,
but there was a lot of symbolism of like, the only way to get here is from the bottom. To get here, you're in this limbo area, and the only way to get out is if you fly away. And ascend heaven. Sure. And then at the end, the girl is literally singing about ascending into heaven.
Joining
into
Jesus.
The arms of Jesus and stuff. So that's kind of what I was like, is that what they were going for in this? And that's another reason I really like this game is because I took it the way that I did.
Yeah.
And you took it the way that you did. And Brad, you took it the way that you did. and none of us are necessarily wrong. And I think that it's one of those things that it's more of like a poem where you can interpret it however you want to.
It's a visual novel at the core.
And a lot of it is a poem that you are writing.
Right.
There's many poems in there, and it's kind of writing the story that you want to experience.
I made a damn good poem at the end. I got to be honest. If you're thinking about playing this game and you're on the fence and you're listening to this right now and you think it's not for you, I would encourage you to try it anyway. I would encourage you to anyway, because I think that, I don't know, open your mind to something else. This is something that I think is an experience that I'm going to think about for the rest of my life, in the same way that when I saw like a Monet in an art museum and I'm like, oh, I actually was in this and I felt it and I like looked at it. There's something to it. You have to do it in motion. Mm-hmm. And this is a piece of art that demands that.
I will say that you are doing a disservice to yourself and to this game if you approached it how I did originally. Now I remember why I wanted to buy this game. Mm-hmm. I like to read before I go to sleep. You are doing yourself a huge disservice if you decide that this is something that you want to fall asleep to.
You have to
also,
be an active viewer.
I bought it for the Switch. Playing it handheld, probably not the best way to go. No. I just played the 5th act last night on my TV, and I was like, oh, this is so much better on a big screen.
If you thought Junebug's performance was great in handheld, dude, on a big screen with like huge speakers playing that.
So 2 of my biggest recommendations, if you did it how I did it, you did it wrong.
Yeah.
And that's my interpretation of that.
Highly recommend this game myself. I would love to talk to someone who backed it on Kickstarter and was able to experience it as an experience over 7 or 8 years, where you seriously are slowly experiencing these acts and you forget what happens, so it's all a dream. But we still have to do another thing this episode. And what do you got, Tom?
Oh, I was just going to say, if anybody who is listening to this and actually got a chance to go to any of these art
we gotta
installations,
know. Yes, we got to know.
Please let us know.
We would love
that
to.
Sounds so cool.
We'd have you on for an episode for sure.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But anyway, Brad, what's fun?
So, we reached out to all of the members of our Discord and the members of the Dogcast, including Juice, and everybody else in the Dogcast Raw Dogs family. So we're going to... I asked everyone for their top 5 indie games, and through complex algorithms and numbers, I compiled all of our lists into one list. So we have the top 40 indie games. We're not going to do it all now.
No.
If you want the full list, check it out on any of our social medias. But we're just going to give you the ranking of our top 10 indie games as a podcast. So, number 10, we have Bloodstained Ritual of the Night.
Okay.
Myself and my shadow.
Fantastic Metroidvania game. Tom and I both went to bat for this one in a big way, as well as a few others.
Did you back this one on Kickstarter like he did?
I would have if I had known more about it and was more of a person. I backed I think 3 or 4 games since then.
Yeah, you were a monster.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tom did. He chose Switch. He chose Switch for his
which reward. I played. I played a Switch. They actually did fix it eventually. So it's fine to play now. It's going to take up a lot of gigs to fix it, though. I will say that.
Yes. Bloodstained, excellent game. Number 9, we have Cuphead.
Ooh, very good. Yeah.
Yeah.
We played that one here.
It was almost on my list.
Tom made me play Cuphead for one of the New Year's challenges. It was to beat the first world, the first island.
Yeah. Then you fell in love with it, like everyone.
As everyone who's ever played it, that can handle it. It is not an easy game.
It's not easy, and I still have trouble with that last boss. So
I can't believe that's all hand-drawn.
That's why it took a million years to
I know, but it's like incredible. When you can like watch a video of it and just freeze frame everything and the amount of like detail that's in all of the it's fantastic. If you haven't played that game, it's brutally difficult.
Yeah, but, and you gotta like boss battles.
Yeah, it's a boss.
It is Contra. It is a Contra game, essentially, but with like rubber band character, like
weird
rubber hose.
Disney like Steamboat Willie style artwork.
1920s rubber hose. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Number 7, we have Oddworld. Now this this was a submission from Jamie Bone, and I did not realize that Oddworld would be considered an indie game.
You did consult me on that, and I had to look it up, and I had to even be like, does this count? Absolutely counts. It is definitely a indie game, though it's not how we would define it today. Mm-hmm. It's okay. Have you ever played it?
No.
It's good.
I own it, but I don't have a PlayStation 5.
Number 6, Hyper Light Drifter. I know nothing about this game.
It's very good. You would actually really enjoy it. It's an isometric, top-down kind of 2D.
32-bit?
32 is probably the word. And you are this swordsman with a gun, and you are going through these areas, and a lot of it is kind of solving the puzzle of what to kill and how to kill it in an action sense, and it's really good. Mm-hmm.
It's
quick reload after death. Yeah, it's good.
Number 5, Celeste.
Wonderful.
Dope.
Celeste, this was my number 1 game.
You're wearing a shirt of it right now.
I didn't even realize. Yes, I love Celeste.
This
fucking tight controls, tight gameplay,
deeply tight.
And
it has to be. Otherwise, it'd suck.
The more you play, the more rewarding it gets. The more challenges you can tackle.
The story really kicks you in the heart too.
Yeah, it's got a story of self-growth and acceptance and depression.
Climbing your depression to get over it.
Depression mountain. Which I'm glad that therapists don't call it that.
Yeah.
Here's your mountain of depression.
It's real big.
Take some Xanax. It'll be... wait, what is the guy...
Xanax is like you're grappling.
What does the guy in Zelda say? Take some Xanax. It's a dangerous journey.
Yeah.
It's dangerous to go alone. Take Xanax.
Yeah. That's actually... If his therapist said that, it would work better.
Yeah. I'd be like, well, you sold me on the reference.
Number 4, Hotline Miami. Yes. I can't do the synth soundtrack with my mouth, but I would love to.
And then you're driving in that summer sun, baby, in Miami. It's an alternate reality Russia, and you're just killing mobsters, blowing their brains out. Not bad, actually. That was great. Yeah, it's really good. Hotline Miami is a very difficult game as well. It's kind of a puzzle-solving game in terms of you got to know when to kill someone, what to take, and it keeps giving you the option to return to it again and again. It is brutally violent. Think John Wick. This is maybe the best John Wick video game.
Number 3, What Remains of Edith Finch. I've never heard of this game. Weird.
I think we talked about it enough. I think it deserves this spot.
Number 2, Disco Elysium.
Oh, damn,
Wonderful.
man. Have you played this?
Good. Yeah, I played it.
Don't know nothing about it.
Not before the update, though.
I know a lot about it. Not really. I know it's on a lot of people's like best of all time lists.
Yeah.
I know that this is truly like a choose your own personality game.
Yeah, it is, and it's also it's less about how you can hurt other people and more how you interact with them. So you have all these stats, and you also have these like side abilities that give you like everything's a dice roll. All your interactions. So you can either pass or fail. It'll tell you the percentage, and you just have to kind of roll with it. If you fail, you fail. It's not like you're going to reload it again. This is a game that's meant to be played all the way through within probably 4 or 5 sessions, in my opinion. But it can be long if you're looking for everything. This is a game I didn't want to break. This is a game I didn't want to look too far into. Tom's absolutely right. It's very good.
Now, Dom, what would be your guess for number 1, if you had to guess?
Better be one of mine. Fuck. One of mine showed up on.
I don't know.
I will say that there was 4 or 5 people that had the same number 1 game.
Okay, well then it's
Son
not
of
my
a
number
bitch.
1.
It's not mine then either, is it?
What's yours?
His was Hotline Miami, wasn't it?
No.
Do you remember what your number 1 was?
Hollow Knight.
Is it Hollow Knight?
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
Hollow Knight.
This was one of the ones that before I texted you, I was like, oh, I haven't beat it. It is really good, but I don't want to put it on my list because I haven't beat it. So when you told me to put it in order, I think I changed my list like probably 3 or 4 times before I actually sent it in.
I love sending random aggressive text messages to people like, I need a top 5 now.
I cannot believe
I
that
had
got
to
number
sneak-
1.
Yeah, Hollow Knight was on many people's lists, and most people that had on their list had it at number 1. So most people that have played it love it.
Oh, it is.
I haven't even played the whole way through, and I was like, this is a great game.
It is so interesting.
Mm-hmm.
The atmosphere. Sometimes the maps can get a little confusing. That is one. That is one of my dings on the game but everything is so beautifully kind of like hand drawn, and the combat is so responsive and tight. And you think that this game, you think when you first start playing it, you're getting one thing. And when I say this is a Metroidvania, it is a slow burn Metroidvania. So the abilities you get are kind of few and far between right away. But the further you go, and this is a long game, I would probably say each playthrough is about 30 hours if you're trying to get most things.
That is a pretty long game.
Especially for a Metroidvania.
And for an indie.
Yeah.
But it's full of places to explore, like little nooks and crannies and new enemy types that are all really excellently animated. The story is really interesting. It's got kind of a Dark Souls vibe. I'm always going to be in love with that game. I considered getting a tattoo of this at one point, so if that tells you anything.
Is that the one you're going to get for your New Year's resolution?
No, he's opting to
didn't
get a haircut and wear a wig for Josh.
What was Josh's
month.
top 5? Has he even played an indie video
No, he
game?
doesn't.
Or
His
was it
number
just Doom 5
1
times?
was Rocket League, which
Fair.
great game but very douche. But yes, that was the top 10 indie games as ranked by Hair of the Dogcast as a family.
I love it.
And this is the end of Indie Games Month. We've enjoyed this so much. We love indie games here. And I look forward so much to next
gonna have to
year's
make
Indie
this-
Games
yeah,
Month because
yeah.
it is a thing, and we will only have 2 episodes probably next year.
That is okay.
But we'll make sure to choose some very solid, fun games to talk about.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll
I've
have
got
a banger
couple.
ready.
Yeah.
Yes, I will choose something other than Untitled Goose Game, which I do love, but I will choose something maybe a little more substantial next year.
Okay.
Yes, but the Raw Dogs will be back in a couple weeks to regularly scheduled buffoonery. And Dylan, if they want to support us or find us, how could they do that?
Well, first and foremost, you're going to want to go to our Patreon. We can keep doing this, I'll be honest, but support means a lot to us. We have multiple tiers on Patreon, and if you, even at like a $1 level, we're not asking for a lot, or you can get us $3, you can go as high as $6, buy us a beer, for Christ's sake. Anything you can get us, we'd always appreciate. We would love to eventually make this kind of more of a thing where it can get us out to conventions and do things with the community.
And yeah, if you support us on Patreon, you'll get access to a couple of extra episodes, bonus episodes, a
Yes.
whole extra show called Doggies After Dark, where it's us after these episodes just rambling on about whatever we're thinking about.
We certainly will.
Yeah, there's also exclusive content there. And you can join our Discord where there's a lot of really wonderful people on there as well. We love all of you. If you want to find us on Facebook, we're Hair of the Dogcast. We are on Instagram at Hair of the Dogcast. We are on Twitter at Hot Dogcast. And we would love to hear from you, your favorite indie games, and your thoughts on any of the things we have discussed this month before or you want us to talk about in the future. So thanks for listening to Raw Dogs. Be careful if you're driving on the Zero. Don't drink any whiskey from skeletons. What else we got?
Don't
marry
kill
it.
your grandchildren
Yeah. Don't marry a Finch.
Don't marry a Finch. We'll end on that one.
or fuck them. You don't have to marry them.
Well, it's not.
You're trying to not create more
Is that how it
finches.
passes? It's like an It Follows
Probably.
thing?
I think so.
They're just an angry sperm like,
It's gotta be fucking. Because
we're back to the Raw Dogs already,
Yeah.
folks.
Yeah, stick around for Doggies After Dark. It's going to get interesting, I'm sure.
All right, we will see you next time. Thanks for tuning in.
Bye.
Bye.